Chapter 1. Her first kiss is mine. Bichu. Ugh. He felt that his head was extremely dizzy as he was filled with confusion. Shut up, bastard. Moreover, such a loud noise made him even more dizzy and angry. To all the high-class devils here. And Bucho's brother, Mao-sama. My name is Hayato Issei from Koa Academy. I have arrived to take Bucho, Rias Gremory-sama. With those words, the surroundings became even more noisy. However, his dizzy mind started to gain composure, and he could clearly see his surroundings. Where the heck is this? He felt confused since he was surrounded by many strangers, but at the same time, he knew all of them. Frankly, it should be his first time seeing everyone, but he could tell who they were like they were his acquaintance. He was inside a spacious hall with various luxurious decorations and stood in front of everyone as if he was about to marry. Wait, a marriage? Who am I going to marry? Issei. By his side, a beautiful young woman with crimson hair tied behind and a white gown was in tears as she faced the young man who had barged into the place. While he wanted to appreciate the beauty of this young woman, he was more cornered about his situation. Still, he glanced at her large breasts for a moment before he focused on the reality before him. Riser Phenex. That's his name. He was lost in thought when he realized his identity. He wasn't sure how he had become this person, but he knew that he had become this person. He wasn't dreaming, and everything was real, especially when he had pinched his hand secretly. It hurt, and because of this, he knew that it was a reality. Still, because of this, it made him sigh secretly. Riser Phenex. It is the name of a pure-blooded, high-class devil who is limited in number and also a member of the household of Phenex. He is the third son of the patriarch of the Phenex household. Yet, all of that identity was something trivial when he thought of his other identity. Yes, he was that Riser Phenex. He was that villain who appeared at the beginning of the story of DxD, and the fiancée of Rias Gremory, the main heroine of this story. He glanced at Rias Gremory once again, who was dressed in a white gown, and thought that this young woman was beautiful. He also understood why the original Riser was obsessed with this young woman, but for him, he felt this young woman was nothing but trouble. As a Riser Phenex, he knew that he didn't lack a woman. All the members of his peerage were his harem, even his little sister. He was the very dream of the protagonist. Still, he could see Rias's attention wasn't on him, and she seemed to be moved by something. He turned his head and looked at the entrance of the room, which was forcefully opened by a young man. The appearance of this young man was average. Yes, average. With short brown hair and a ponytail. This young man was the epitome of the average guy. However, he knew that this young man was the protagonist. Issei Hayadu. This is the name of this young man. While Issei might be an average guy, he was an unbelievable pervert who was also the owner of the legendary Longinus boosted gear. Those who aren't familiar with it will be confused. What is Longinus? What is boosted gear? In simple terms, a Longinus is a weapon that is capable of killing a god. That simple explanation made it easy to understand how powerful the weapon held by this young man was, right? Issei was also the holder of boosted gear, the mid-tier Longinus, where the Welsh dragon, Drake, resides. It also has the ability to enhance the user's capabilities as well as transfer power to anyone or an object twice every 10 seconds. In other words, as long as they want to, they can strengthen themselves as much as possible. Powerful, right? However, the reality isn't that easy. It takes 10 seconds to strengthen the user, so as long as the user is beaten before that, it will mean nothing. Moreover, if the basic strength of the user is too weak, this weapon also means nothing. After all, no matter if you tried to time 0, it would be 0, right? Still, he had to sigh at his situation. Even if the original Riser was a scumbag with a lot of women, he was still better than Issei. Yet, love had always been blind. No matter how beautiful the women were, as long as they were attacked by the protagonist, they would fall in love helplessly. However, whatever the situation was, he was the one that was in trouble now. Rias was his fiancée. Even if she hated him, this fact didn't change. She ignored the wishes of her parents and tried to escape from this engagement for a reason because she wanted someone to see her as what she was without looking at her family. Yet, was it possible? No. As someone who was born into the Gremory family and also the heir to this family, she had an obligation that she couldn't escape. If she didn't want to have this engagement, then she shouldn't have been born into this family and lived a hard life like low-class devils normally instead of living like a pampered princess. Moreover, she also didn't have any achievements or anything. Her days were spent collecting anime and other otaku goods. If she wanted people to see her as she was instead of her family, then she should work harder for it than acting like a bitch. If he had to be honest, instead of Rias, he felt a good impression of Rias's friend. Frankly, if he had an engagement, he felt like Citri Sona was better. Though he had to say, Rias's big BUBs were better. Nevertheless, he knew how pampered this princess was. Frankly, it was impossible for Issei to enter this important event, yet Issei could still enter and interrupt this important event in front of two prominent families of the devil. If Rias's family had no involvement, then he wouldn't believe it. To be honest, he wanted to escape from this engagement directly as this woman was a source of trouble. He also didn't have a feeling toward Rias since this woman was nothing but a stupid vase. The good thing about her was just her appearance and BUBs. Her head was only filled with delusions and ideals like those anime characters in the story. Moreover, this was a marriage. It was a once-in-a-lifetime event. He also wanted to have a good wife instead of a troublesome wife. As a devil, he also had a long age. If his wife caused him trouble every time, he might as well divorce her early since it would be a source of headache instead of happiness. As for the matter of grandchildren for his parents, he could leave that matter to two of his older brothers since they were more responsible than him. Having a playboy-like life was good enough for him. Moreover, it wasn't like he lacked any prospect of marriage, as he was pretty talented. The only reason why he lost in the duel against Issei was due to plot armor. Still, even if he wanted to divorce Rias, it was impossible for him to let the two get their happiness so easily. After all, their happiness would result in his unhappiness. If he wasn't Riser, then he wouldn't care since he was only a bystander, but he had become Riser now. Still, when he thought about the result of this battle, he let out a helpless sigh inside his heart. This bitch. How dare you shame me? Let me teach you whose woman you are. Huh. Option 1. Burn Rias's face with your fire ability. You will receive an absolute destruction. Option 2. Become crazy and kill the Gremory family. You will receive an unlimited magic power. Option 3. Kiss Rias and say Dio Brando's trademark lines. You will receive a flame manipulation mastery. You must choose one, or else you will lose your dick. His head suddenly felt like it was about to split. Fuck. What's happening? With everyone confused, with the help of Rias's peerage members and also plot armor, Issei walked toward him confidently. When he faced him, he said straight at him, Bucho. No, Rias Gremory-sama's virginity belongs to me. Everyone fell into silence when they heard those words. All of them also quickly stared at Riser, who received that provocation, yet unlike the bewilderment they thought of, all they could see was calmness on his face. Then, to everyone's surprise, Riser suddenly held Rias's chin and kissed her lips forcefully. At that moment, it was silent. No one could say anything. Even Issei could only stare at this scene in bewilderment. Rias also couldn't understand what was happening, and she could only let her lips be ravaged by Riser. He, who had become Riser, also didn't give mercy to Rias. He gave her a lewd kiss on her untainted lips. A lewd noise echoed through the room. Maybe, because of his skill and because he also had a lot of experience, she let out a moan. It was quiet, yet for the devils, whose senses were enhanced, it was impossible for them not to hear it, causing them to look at this scene in a subtle manner. Then, he let her go when she was about to lose her breath. Rias fell weakly on the ground by his side with a reddened face and tears before she stared at him hatefully. Riser. Her tone was full of anger as her first kiss was taken by someone she hated the most. Riser ignored Rias and then faced Issei, who was still in a state of disbelief. Facing all the stares before him, Riser was calm and looked at Issei with a proud and arrogant smile. But her first kiss is mine now. Chapter 2. I don't want to become a villain. But her first kiss is mine now. His tone was normal, almost cold-like, and even domineering, yet strangely enough, no one could find a fault in it. Instead, all of them looked at him in awe. Many females were blushing, hearing his words, especially his peerage members, who were also his harem members. At the time, he was like an overbearing president in the novel. Even Rias, who looked at him hatefully, had her heart beating so fast at this moment. Yet, this was a normal thing. Riser might be a bastard, scumbag, or even a playboy, but he was handsome. His family status was also awesome. It wouldn't be wrong to say that his family was the richest in the underworld, as his family could produce Phenex tears, a special potion of liquid that can instantly heal injuries. Frankly, it wouldn't be weird to say that he was the type that the majority of women in this world wanted to be with. The only reason why Rias rejected him was that this young woman was spoiled to the core by her parents and older brother. She thought that as long as she threw a tantrum, everything would be given to her. The original Riser also didn't teach this woman in her place and even pampered her. Yet, it was normal. Rias was beautiful. When one was beautiful, everything was easy. Every guy she met would try to win her favor and treat her like the most precious piece of jewelry. If one wanted to make her fall, then they thought they had to do so. However, he was too lazy with such a woman and just wanted to cut their relationship as soon as possible. Rias might be beautiful, but the marriage wasn't all about appearance, as one would stay with the other for the rest of their lives. Even if she was beautiful, he would get bored if they stayed together for so long. It was like how one would want to eat steak all the time. No matter how delicious and expensive it was, one would feel bored if they ate it for the rest of their lives. Still, he knew that his example was a bad example, but this was the closest way to describe a marriage relationship. In other words, the most important thing for a marriage is emotional compatibility. When one is together, they would support each other and become better as they grow old instead of becoming unhappy as the days pass. Still, he sighed in relief as his head felt better, and his headache was like a dream. Moreover, he also gained a reward. You have received flame manipulation mastery. Then, suddenly, all the knowledge about the flame manipulation ability entered his head. He felt like he could control his ability better, and he also felt like he had become stronger. As a descendant of the Phenex family, he had 3 special abilities: flame manipulation, wind manipulation, and immortality. The other 2 asides, his flame manipulation, had become stronger. Still, what was happening? Welcome to Villain System. Villain System? As a villain, why should you become a good guy? As a villain, you should be despicable and destroy everything. As a villain, you should let all the beings in this world know not to mess up with you. As of now, you are still a baby villain, and this system will train you to become a first-rate villain. Be the symbol of terror and bring suffering to everyone. Now, let the world burn and destroy everything. His lips twitched, and he felt exhausted all of a sudden. Villain? Why should he become one? His goal was to live a debauchery and carefree life. Why should he become a villain? He didn't want to have such a troublesome life. Yet, he shuddered when he thought about the consequences of not following the system. He didn't want to bet since losing his dick meant that he would lose everything. Still, he wondered who was cruel enough to do this to him. Don't let him catch this guy, or else he will burn it to death. Still, as for why he chose option 3, it was obvious, right? He would die if he chose option 1, and option 2, after all. However, after choosing option 3, he wanted to cry at that moment, but Issei was in the same situation. You. Issei was unable to say anything except for you, as he didn't expect Riser would suddenly kiss Rias. As expected of non-virgin, he thought. Yet, his heart was filled with anger and jealousy. He had proclaimed that Bucho's virginity was his, yet Riser had tainted those lips. The beautiful lips of Bucho, the luscious lips of Bucho, the S*XY lips of Bucho. They were tainted by this bastard. Issei almost cried blood at this moment, and his heart surged with anger, especially when he saw Rias's tears. You bastard! I won't forgive you. Issei raised his fist and wanted to beat Riser up. Yet, how could Riser accept that? Riser unleashed all of his demonic energy, causing the temperature to become so hot that it was about to melt the building. His killing intent was surging, and he didn't even hide his intention to kill Issei. Yet, even if he did so, no one would blame him. Issei's action was like a commoner who threw mud into the face of the noble. If it was a medieval era, Issei would have died thousands of times already. Everyone was shocked by this sudden change. They thought that Riser was about to kill Issei. Yet, many of them didn't feel strange, and even thought that it was normal for Issei to be killed. Still, the one that surprised them the most was Riser's strength. This temperature, they might even be burnt by it. However, Issei, who felt the killing intent from Riser, trembled. He felt that his legs were weak, and he was filled with fear. Yet, wasn't this a normal thing? Issei was nothing but a normal perverted high school student before he became a devil. His experience was nothing compared to Riser's. He also never fought and only spent his time collecting various porn. Facing a death threat, Issei could only plop on the ground weakly. Issei, Rias, and the rest of her peerage members panicked. Yet, how could they not be? After all, they didn't expect that Riser would be so angry that he wanted to kill Issei in front of everyone. Before, while Riser had fought them, he had never been serious and only treated them like a play. However, this time, he was serious, and this change scared all of them. Everyone that was related to Issei wanted to do something, yet in front of this heat, no one could do anything. I'm going to get killed. I'm going to get killed. Issei stared at Riser in horror. However, out of the surprise of everyone, all the heat suddenly disappeared. I was kidding. There is no way that I will kill my fiancé's precious peerage member, right? Riser smiled calmly, then looked at his fiancée without changing his face. Come on. You should smile. Your peerage member is coming to congratulate us on our engagement even if he had just woken up after he passed out. In front of his dedication, you should be happy. Rias's eyes trembled as she looked at Riser, who was neither smiling nor frowning. It was hard to tell what he was thinking, but she knew she had angered him, so she didn't say anything and just obediently stayed by his side since she was afraid Riser would really kill Issei. Still, Riser was speechless since this woman had become so close that she pressed her breasts on him. Was a simple breast going to make him change his mind? However, he didn't reject her and decided to enjoy those BUBs for a while. Then, he stared at Mao-sama, Surzek Lucifer, and calmly said, Also, thank you for inviting Sekirudii, Red Dragon Emperor, to our engagement party, Mao-sama. I am sure he will be sad if he is left out of this important event of his master. Surzek. Chapter 3. The answer is obvious, right? Unlike other devils, Rias Gremory's identity was special. Not only was she the heiress of the Gremory house, but her older brother was also Mao, Surzek Lucifer. Now, what is Mao? Mao is the strongest devil, the one who stands on the top among the devils. Moreover, Rias was being pampered by the two. As long as it was within their power, they would do anything to make her happy. Naturally, if she didn't have power, then everything was meaningless. Fortunately, she had an idiotic pawn who would do anything for her, willing to give everything, even his life, to save her. When he thought about it, was he willing to give his everything to Rias? No. He only came to this world in just a few moments, so how could he give his life to Rias? She might be beautiful, but his life was more important, so that's why no one should know that he wasn't the real Riser. Well, though, he was sure everyone could tell he had changed somehow. This change, no one knew whether it was good or not, but Riser's family felt he had become mature now. Many might see him as arrogant, but this was pride as someone that came from a pure-blooded, high-class devil. Facing a reincarnated devil, even if this person was Sekirudii, one should be able to lift their head courageously. Still, Surzek had a headache watching Issei, who slumped on the ground and was unable to stand up. He also didn't expect Riser's sudden move that he was willing to kill Issei without any precautions. Yet, when he was about to stand up for Issei, Riser suddenly stopped and made him unable to do anything. It was like he was hitting cotton, feeling extremely helpless. Frankly, he wanted to make the two fight each other. A phoenix against a dragon. With that gimmick, he would make Riser agree to the duel, and Issei, who would win the duel, would be able to get Rias back. That's the case. But watching Issei, who was in fear, Surzek felt that it was over, yet how could he give up easily? He doted on his little sister a lot, and when he thought Rias was about to marry someone she didn't like, he also didn't want it since he wanted her to be happy. Riser might be someone brimming with talent, especially among the young devils. Even Surzek could see that. Moreover, the significance of this marriage was also extremely important as devils were small in numbers, especially after that war. So having two pure devils marry each other would bring a boost and confidence to everyone. Yet, his little sister's happiness was the most important. Issei-kun, are you going to give up? Echa. Issei, who was sitting on the ground because of fear, was dumbfounded. Who are you? Issei was surprised since he could hear the voice of someone in his mind, so he answered this question out loud subconsciously. Everyone was confused and thought that this guy had gone crazy. However, Riser stared at the devilish handsome devil with crimson-red hair like Rias. Still, as a devil, Surzek was also shameless, so he just ignored Riser's stare as he continued to talk with Issei through telepathy. Do you want Rias to marry him? Do you want to see Rias's virginity eaten by him? Do you want to see your beloved's master's breasts are going to be played by him every day? Issei-kun, are you going to give up? Issei-kun, are you alright with this? Nuu. As expected of the protagonist, Issei quickly stood up from his stupor, especially when he thought Rias's body would be played by Riser every day. That thought alone was enough to kill him. Damn it. I won't let him. I won't let this guy succeed. Ucho's virginity is mine. Issei roared once again, causing the audience to fall into silence. Riser stared at Issei for a while, then looked at Rias, whose expression was complicated. So, what do you think? Rias was stunned since she didn't expect to be questioned by Riser. Your slave told everyone that your body is his. What do you think about this? Rias didn't know what to say at that moment. Or rather, what should she say? Frankly, she felt that Riser had changed, and it was so hard to tell what he was thinking. As for Issei, it was hard to say if she was moved since Issei's words were just too vulgar. However, there was no doubt Issei's words were rude, especially when it was said in front of all the people with high positions in the devil world. Her mind was a mess as she was unable to answer this question. You bastard. Issei was stupid. He didn't know anything, but for one thing, he knew that Riser had made Rias cry. So he wouldn't forgive him for that. Moreover, that bastard had stolen Rias's first kiss. Lady Rias, what's the meaning of this? Everyone started to question Rias as, at this moment, she appeared incompetent for not being able to control her slave. Yes, a slave. For the devils with a high position, those reincarnated devils were nothing but slaves. Issei might be Seker Udii, the owner of the boosted gear, but in the eyes of the pure-blood devils, he was nothing but a slave. Issei also thought so and even felt proud of it as he could become the slave of Rias Gremory. Still, without a doubt, not being able to control her slave and even let him cause trouble for this important event meant that she was incompetent in the eyes of everyone. It's an event that I organized. Surzek, who had been talking with Issei, suddenly talked, trying to help his little sister. Oni-sama. Rias looked at Surzek in surprise, but Issei was dumbfounded since he didn't expect Surzek to be Rias's older brother. I wanted to see the power of the dragon, so I asked Grafia. Grafia. Riser looked at the silver-haired beauty in a maid uniform while standing at the back. Grafia also noticed Riser's gaze and bowed her head. He rolled his eyes and thought that he might as well cut this engagement because of how troublesome it was. Surzek-sama. You can't do something irresponsible like this. Yes, irresponsible. While only some voiced their opinions, everyone looked at Surzek with panic and displeased. However, Surzek's power was there. As a supernatural being, the most important thing was power, so Surzek, who was the strongest, made everyone feel helpless. That should be fine. The raiding game from last time was very entertaining, but it was a bit of a disadvantage for my little sister, who had no game experience, to face off against Riser-kun, a prodigy from the House of Phenex. Everyone wasn't stupid, and they could tell the meaning behind his words. So Surzek-sama, you were saying that the last game wasn't fair? No, not at all. If a mouse such as myself says such a thing, then I would make the old nobles appear in disgrace. The connection between high-class devils is important after all. Surzek said those words with a smile, but everyone could tell that he was trying to help Rias. Then, Surzek, what do you want to do about it? A middle-aged man with crimson hair asked Surzek. From his appearance, it was easy to tell that he was Rias's father. Father, I want to make my cute little sister's engagement party into a flashy one. A battle of a dragon versus a phoenix. Don't you think it's the ultimate event? Stir up the party by having a battle between legendary creatures. There isn't any entertainment which can surpass this. Surzek then looked at Issei. Seker Udii-kun, you have our permission. Then he looked at Riser. Riser, can you show me your power once more right in front of Rias and me? Hearing Surzek's wish, Riser shook his head and said, No, I refuse. Surzek. Chapter 4. You have never been my opponent. The hall filled with silence once again. Surzek-sama, pardon me for being rude, but this is important even to your little sister's life. Don't you think that it is rude wishing for something so selfish in one of your little sister's happiest life moments? The happiest life moment? Some of them felt their lips twitch since it was their first time to know that Riser could be so shameless. However, wasn't it good? In the end, Mao was nothing but a symbol. In the devil's world, the words of the nobles were more important. The marriage between him and Rias was the wish of all the devils in the world, so to stop it, Surzek had to face all the displeasure of the high-level pure-blood devils. In the original, Riser was so stupid to accept this fight so carelessly, but it was normal since he was confident in his power, and in the memory of raiding game, Issei was so weak. Issei was a swine before a pearl. This is his image of Issei. Because of this, Riser lost to Issei as he had underestimated Issei and his protagonist's aura. More importantly, this duel was at a loss for him from beginning to end. He was sure if Issei won this duel, he would receive something, but what if he won? He got nothing. If he loses his fiancée. While he didn't care about this fiancée, it was too cheap to let go of everything like this, right? If Issei could get a reward for winning, Riser also wanted one too. Still, his answer stunned Surzek, especially when Riser's words made him stand on the high ground. Wise and mature, yet he appeared so selfish for wishing something to see the fight between him and Issei during this important event. However, how could he give up? Are you scared? I am not scared, but after we complete this engagement, you can see me fight anytime as I will take care of my fiancé's peerage, right, Rias? What could Rias say? She could only stay obedient to Riser's side since she was afraid that Riser would kill Issei once again. While her voice was low, she nodded at Riser's question. Issei. Surzek. Rias's peerage members. While Surzek and Rias's peerage members sighed helplessly, Rias's parents were okay since this was what they wanted. The marriage between the two was something they were looking forward to, especially her mother. As for now, Issei hadn't shown his worth. Like what Riser thought, everyone also thought the same. Issei was nothing but a swine before a pearl, and they also had enough to accept Rias's selfishness. No, I won't let you. I won't let you get Bucho's virginity. Bucho's virginity belongs to me. Issei let out a roar, showing his determination. Sekiryutai-kun, do you think I don't dare to kill you here? In his hand, a blazing fire formed. It was like a miniature of the sun. It was scorching, and one could tell how dangerous this attack was. Once again, they were surprised by how powerful Riser was. No, please stop. I will marry you, okay? Don't hurt him. Rias hugged Riser tightly, so he wouldn't be able to attack Issei. Riser's lips twitched, and he also stopped his attack since he didn't want to hurt this woman. Still, the woman's body was like kryptonite to him. It made him helpless, especially those BUBs. What the fuck is going on with this body? Was it the effect of Riser's original personality? Or was he really that perverted, to begin with? Why were BUBs so mighty in this world? Bucho. Issei looked at this scene sadly as he clenched his fist before he shook his head. No, as expected, I can't accept this. I can't accept this marriage at all. I will take Bucho away from here. Riser's eyes suddenly went cold, but Surzek suddenly said, Riser-kun, what do you want so you can accept this duel? Riser stared at Surzek and wondered how much this guy wished for him to accept this duel. Frankly, whether this duel or rating game before had no meaning. After all, no matter what, it wouldn't change the fact that Rias was his fiancée. Still, he wouldn't agree to this duel no matter what, but... Bastard, how dare you look down on me? Option 1. Take Surzek as wife and let him taste the feeling of humiliation of watching his wife being taken by you. You will receive a Zanpakuto, Ryujin Jaka. Option 2. Kill Surzek. You will receive a Zanpakuto, Nozarashi. Option 3. Accept the fight, then kiss Rias in front of everyone. You will receive a S*X Mastery. You must choose one, or else you will lose all of your demonic power. He felt so sad that he wanted to cry at that moment. Losing all of his demonic power? What was the difference between this and being crippled? Why did he need to be this miserable? Frankly, he wanted to take option 1, but he was sure that he would be killed. As for option 2, he ignored it since he would be dead either way. So, he could only choose option 3. He sighed helplessly and asked, Do you really want to see me fighting? Yes. Surzek nodded. This is also your important event, too, right? You should show that you are worthy of Rias. Then, do you think this Sekiryutai is worthy of Rias? Surzek. Surzek-sama, are you going to say to this Sekiryutai that if he wins, he will get Rias? Everyone stared at Surzek, waiting for his answer. Issei also looked at Surzek in anticipation, but... No. Issei. However, if he wins, he will be able to get a prize. He is a devil, after all, so we need to give him something fitting for it since we are asking something for us. Now then, I can give you anything. A peerage? Or the most beautiful woman? What do you think, Sekiryutai-kun? I ask you to give me Rias Gremory-sama back. Very well. If you win, you may take Rias with you. Thank you very much. The two somehow talked to each other, but Riser suddenly said, Sorry, when did I say that I agreed to this duel? Surzek. Issei. Moreover, Surzek-sama, I have never asked Sekiryutai, and everything was your own request. It has nothing to do with me. Lastly, Rias Gremory is a single individual. You can't treat her like a bet chip that you can use any time for your selfish desire. Even if you are his older brother and Mal Lucifer, I will get angry and fight you for her. Riser was seriously showing his acting skill. Even if he faced Mao, he didn't show fear and even released his demonic power. Everyone was surprised by his courage. Rias also widened her eyes since she didn't expect the words that came out of Riser's mouth and his courage to face Surzek, the Mao, which moved her greatly since she didn't expect this side of him. Moreover, Due to Riser's words, even though Surzek wanted the best for her, she felt the way he helped her was quite irritating. Surzek knew that no matter what, he would become the bad guy in this situation. Yet, he was also surprised by Riser's courage. But even so, I want to watch it. Surzek knew that he had lost his face at that moment, but everything was for Rias. I see. Riser nodded, but then he sighed. I might respect you as a Mao, but as a family, I can't respect you. After all, are we, the devil, so weak that we have to carry a favor to a Securudi? His words echoed everyone's heart. As a devil, they were proud beings since they were born from the 7 sins, so hearing his words, their hearts fluctuated. Do you dare to fight me or not, bastard? Issei didn't know anything complicated, and he just wanted to fight Riser and bring Rias back with him. However, Riser didn't even glance at Issei and looked at Surzek. Surzek-sama, I agree with this duel. Yes, but as I am a devil, shouldn't you give me a prize too, since it is unfair if I don't receive a reward, right? Then, I will also give you anything too when you win. Surzek was helpless. Thank you. Riser smiled, and his smile also affected most of the people here before he faced Issei. So, Securudi, let me tell you that I have never regarded those who have lost against me as an opponent. I will give you time to catch up to get stronger, so you will realize you can't see the gap between us and fall into despair. His confident and clear voice echoed through the hall, making everyone realize what kind of a man he was. Still, before the battle, he kissed Rias's lips once again. They might not have an engagement any longer later, so we should take advantage as long as possible. Rias, Surzek, everyone. Issei. Chapter 5. Good job. Once again, complete knowledge suddenly entered his mind. It didn't feel uncomfortable. Instead, it felt nice since he could somehow feel stronger. Even if what he got was a strange reward. Wait for me here. He patted Rias's buttocks gently after he kissed her before he walked away. Rias gritted her teeth and stared at him annoyedly. However, she didn't push him, or rather, when she was about to push him, he only gave her a short kiss, so to all the people present, she didn't seem to reject him and accepted the kiss. Bastard. However, Issei stopped his lips once again when he met Riser's cold eyes. Listen to me, Securudi. You might be a peerage member of my fiancé, but you have decided to challenge me, so don't expect me to be merciful. As he moved closer, Issei backed down before his butts fell to the ground. You know what my family's special ability is, right? Immortality. Moreover, it can also be used to heal. Maybe, in the match, I will break your bones, then heal it. Break it. Heal it. I will keep doing it until you break and wish to die. His voice was so cold, like he was really about to do it, giving a shiver to all the people who heard it. But I was kidding. He walked past Issei, who was staring at him in disbelief and shaking in fear before he said calmly, I will give you a chance to show all of your power, so don't bring shame to your master, and bring a good match to Surzek-sama. Who wishes to watch such a match between a dragon and a phoenix during this important event? Okay. Surzek felt like he was stabbed by a knife once again. Riser's words were polite, but they were a sharp knife. Still, some who heard his words didn't think that he was talking big and cruel. Instead, they thought it was part of the strategy since they could see that Issei was trembling with fear. They shook their heads and felt the victory was already his. Meanwhile, Issei received encouragement once again. Issei-kun, you can't give up. If you give up, then your Bucho will be in his arms, and her virginity will be taken by Riser. Don't doubt it. You can see how violent he was when he stole your beloved Bucho's lips, right? Do you want to see Rias's virginity being taken violently by him? Issei shuddered violently. Yes. He couldn't give up. He had to defeat this yakitori, Japanese chicken skewer dish. He held his left arm and whispered, Partner, I will leave it to you. Yes, use everything you do to show them the power of the dragon. Beat this bastard who is looking down on you. Yes, I will take Bucho too. The center of the hall was cleared in a hurry. The devils in the hall were standing around the space, watching with keen eyes. Rias's peerage members stayed in the same place as Rias, and Surzek also sat next to her. On the other hand, at the House of Phenex, his relatives, parents, families, servants of his family, and his little sister sat there. Still, instead of Issei, he was more cornered about his family situation, though. Okasama, is it only me, or is Riser-isama a bit different? Riser's little sister, Rivel Phenex, quietly asked her mother. Well, that's not the case, right? He is still your older brother, after all. But it's normal, isn't it? After all, Who doesn't feel angry for being played like this? Still, it's good that he has become mature. Hearing her father's words, Ravel also nodded since she had to say, currently, her older brother was cool. If before, Riser was like a cheap playboy, who was arrogant and unscrupulous, at this moment, he is like an intelligent villain in the novel. It was like everyone was looking at his enhanced self. Ravel felt the change in her older brother was good. Still, I wonder how this match is going to be. Without a doubt, they didn't doubt Riser since they knew he was a genius, but his opponent was a Seker UDI. It might be a surprise, so he hoped that Riser wouldn't let his guard down. Yubaluna, step down. Yes, Riser-sama. Riser looked at the voluptuous woman with long, wavy purple hair that fell all the way down her back and matching eyes. He knew that this woman was his queen, and it made him strange somehow. Still, from the memory of the original Riser, he remembered everything, but with the combination of his personality, it was impossible to stop the change. Moreover, he felt weird when he thought that there were 12 beautiful women who were also his harem members. Good luck, Riser-sama. Yubaluna softly kissed his cheek, causing him to slap her buttocks and tell her to go away. She chuckled happily and walked to a safe distance, watching his match with his other peerage members from the closest distance possible. How to say, all of them could tell that Riser had changed, yet they had to say this change wasn't that bad, though. Yet, while he didn't realize it, it was the effect of his S*X mastery, as he knew every point of making a woman feel horny toward him. After all, S*X isn't all about putting a rod inside a hole. This art is deep. The way he presented himself was also part of this S*X mastery. Meanwhile, Issei was brimming with envy, watching how close Riser was with his harem. He meant his peerage members were, and because of this, he couldn't let him be with Rias since if they were together, he could tell Rias would be sad and he couldn't allow Rias to be sad. Yet what made him even angrier was how Riser seemed to dismiss him. He was going to show him. He was going to break this calm mask of him by defeating him. Inside the Devil's Ring, confronting each other at the center of the space, the two of them were ready to fight. Please start. The Devil, who was in charge of the referee, gave a call for the start of the match, and the match started. Still, while Issei had summoned booster gear on his arm, Riser was as calm as ever. Bucho, I will finish it in 10 seconds. Issei suddenly shouted, causing everyone to feel confused. Issei. Rias made a doubtful face, but Issei didn't care since he was going to show everyone. I am going to crush you down with everything I got. Riser Phenex. Bucho, allow me to use promotion. Promotion. Queen. Issei could feel the power that came within him. Bucho. He shouted, I don't have a talent for swords like Kiba. I am not a genius like Akino-san at using demonic power. I don't have a crazy strength like Kaneko-chan. Not that I have a healing power like Asia. Even still, I will become the strongest pawn. He promised Rias. For you, I will even beat God. With this, boosted gear. My only weapon. I will make sure that I will protect you. Shine. Overboost. Welsh Dragon Overbooster. The jewel on the boosted gear released a red light. The light shone through the entire hall. A deep crimson cloud aura covered him. This power. Your power is overwhelming me. Then, his body was suddenly equipped with red armor. A plate armor that had a motif of a dragon. The jewel that was present on the gauntlet also appeared on both of his arms, shoulders, in the middle of the torso. On the back, there was something like a rocket booster propulsion. Yet, despite all of this change, Riser was calm, making Issei uneasy. This is the power of the Dragon Emperor. Balance Breaker. Boosted Gear Scale Mail. If you want to stop me, go and ask Mao-sama. After all, I won't forgive you. Don't waste my time. I am getting bored waiting for your transformation. Your 10 seconds are going to end, you know. Bastard. Issei raised his hands, bringing them close, and then created a massive demonic power between his hands before he shot it toward Riser right away. Take this. An enormous amount of demonic power, so high that it took up about half of the hall, was about to swallow Riser. Everyone was surprised by this power. Even Issei, who was shot in the attack, was also surprised. Yet similar to before, Riser just stood in his place and didn't move, completely dismissing this attack. Riser-sama. Oni-sama. Everyone was startled and worried. But then, boom, a big explosion happened, and it razed everything to ruin. Everyone fell in silence and watched this scene in disbelief. Huh? Is that it? Issei was confused before he smiled since he thought that he had won this battle. But asterisk clap, 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 asterisk. The sound of hand claps echoed through the hall. When the aftermath of the attack disappeared, Riser still stood in place, completely unscathed from that attack. Good attack, but if you want to defeat me, then you need a long way. No way. Issei fell into despair. Ahem, there is a comment that caught my attention in the previous chapter. It was said that the MC was a doll being dictated by a system. I think that's a little too much, but I also understand your point since his action was caused by the system, but in this story, it is definitely not all of them. However, I think that's the point of this story. Frankly, if I became Riser Phenex, I wouldn't do anything and would just be lazy around, living a good life by spending his time with his harem and his parents' money. After all, Riser didn't lack anything, whether it was money, talent, or women. Moreover, even if he did nothing, his talent was enough to bring him to become an ultimate class devil, even though he might be the weakest. If there isn't a system, then his story would be spent on indulgence, and as a normal human that is reincarnated into the devil, there is no way for him to wish to do something dangerous, right? Moreover, the option on the system is like a quest in an RPG game or system on the reincarnation story. He was asked to do something, and then he would get the reward. It was like killing a monster or two, and then getting money. The only difference he couldn't refuse. However, this matter will become part of the plot in the future. Lastly, there is no need to think too much and just enjoy, okay? If you have something to comment on or input, then just give a comment. I will do my best to answer. Chapter 6, Blue Phenex. Despite their confidence in Riser, no one expected that he would be completely unscathed from this attack. His hair, clothes, and everything else were perfect. Completely unscathed. No one could see a single damage in it. Yet, this was the one that made them confused since Issei's attack wasn't weak. It was strong, so no one expected this result. Moreover, his expression, even if Rias, her peerage members, and others who wished Issei to win wanted to believe in Issei's victory, it was hard. Let me teach you. A fight with a devil isn't all about a physical attack. You have 10 seconds, so do your best, okay. Suddenly, an exclaim appeared in the surrounding area. Huh? What is this? Does Riser have this kind of ability? Yet, their surprise was normal. After all, they saw 32 Risers appear in space at the same time. How? Issei was even more bewildered. CL cloning technique? He had read various manga and also watched various anime, so he was sure that this was a clone technique, and because of this, he had fallen into deeper despair. It's not a clone. It's a mirage. By refracting light from the heat, he created mirages of himself. Issei was stupid. It was impossible for him to think about the countermeasures of this technique. Nevertheless, it was impossible for Issei to give up, especially when he was the protagonist. So what? All I will do is beat you up until the real one appears. Huh. His time was limited, and what he needed to do was just beat Riser up. Yet, when his punch was connected to Riser, it passed through and disappeared. What a shame. You miss. Huh. Hearing his voice, Issei became even more irritated and kept punching everything with all of his might. Yet when one Riser disappeared, 2 Risers appeared. The number of Risers kept increasing, causing Issei to be more desperate. 10 seconds. That's the limit of his power. If he couldn't defeat Riser in 10 seconds, then everything was over. Faster. 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 Issei moved faster and faster, yet it was impossible. It was impossible to find a Riser. Yet, those who watched this match couldn't help but clap their hands, especially Riser's relatives. They knew that he was a genius. No, he was a prodigy, yet they didn't expect his fire manipulation would reach this level. After this match, they were going to beg him to teach him this technique. Especially Ravel, his little sister, her eyes shone brightly, thinking that this technique was fun. However, Rias and the rest couldn't stay calm. By now, they realized that Riser had never been serious with them. From the beginning to the end, they were all on his palms. Bastard, if you are a man, then fight me without running away. Don't you keep hiding among your clones. Riser knew that Issei was provoking him, but there was no need for him to accept this provocation. Still, as Issei was the main protagonist of this world, he was sure this guy would become stronger and stronger. With their position, it wouldn't be weird if they were enemies. Yet, even if this guy was a protagonist, Issei was still an ordinary perverted boy. Riser was going to instill extreme fear in Issei's heart and become his nightmare. So even if, in the future, Issei had become strong, he wouldn't stand a chance when he faced him. His eyes became cold, and he was ready to end this match. Meanwhile, Issei, who was panicked, didn't know what to do, only trying to provoke him, so Riser could appear before him. Yet, Even he also knew that someone wouldn't be stupid enough to erase his advantage. However, if they fought each other with their fists, he knew he had a big chance to defeat Riser, especially with all the hidden trinkets he hid on his gauntlets. The problem was Riser didn't face him directly and played him by creating a mirage. What did it mean? It meant Riser was either playing with him, or he was smart enough not to face him personally. Because of this, his situation was hopeless. Not only Issei, but some of the people, especially those who were on the side of Rias, thought of this, and because of this, their expressions were ugly since even they were also unable to tell which one was the real Riser. Issei. Yet, this also surprised all of them since they had never thought Riser had this crafty side of him, and his flame manipulation ability was just magnificent. From this battle alone, all of them could tell that he was the best among the young generation of the devil. Still, to their surprise, partner, he has appeared. Oh. Issei grinned, feeling happy. I don't know why you have appeared, but since you have appeared here, then I won't let you go. I will beat you up. Then, I will win and take Bucho with me. Yet, Riser never took a glance at Issei and unleashed terrifying demonic power. Phoenix Howl. Partner. Issei couldn't even react and only heard the voice of Drake before he was swallowed by flames. Then, at that moment, he was burnt. Airgry. Not only Issei but the entire area was engulfed by Riser's flame. If the barrier around the space didn't stop his flame, then it would spread even further. However, because of the barrier, the flame swelled up and filled up the entire space. Everyone was lost for words. What they could see was a sea of flame that filled the stage. Yet, before Rias and the rest panicked, they saw something unbelievable once again. The orange-colored flame suddenly started to change to a white color, and it became brighter and brighter before it became a blue color. The temperature became even more severe, melting the barrier surrounding the space. Everyone's expression started to change. Protect everyone. Surzek shouted and took the initiative to set up a barrier to protect everyone. Not only Surzek but others, including Riser's relatives, also quickly set up a barrier to protect everyone. Blue fire? What kind of fire is this? Hurry up and strengthen the barrier, or else we might be burnt. Everyone was shocked since they had never expected Riser would be so strong. The image of a dandy young man who lived a debauched life with his harem changed and became the very image of a domineering devil whose power was unmatched within his generation. By now, they knew Riser would be able to climb even higher. Even becoming a Mao wouldn't be a dream. The eyes of his family became excited, and they were happy, especially his father, mother, and siblings. If Riser didn't take this match, then they wouldn't know Riser would be this strong. As for why Riser had never shown this ability, well, if they had to guess, then there was no strong someone that could push him even further. Yet wasn't this normal? After all, among all of his rating game, he could defeat all of his opponents perfectly. He might have had 2 losses, but it was because he lost deliberately because his opponents were the allies of Phoenix House. Nevertheless, they knew because of this, from the beginning to the end, Sekurudai wasn't even the opponent of Riser. It was only a few seconds, but it was like a scene from hell. Even if the blue flame disappeared, the heat haze still existed within the space, but it wasn't on a level that was unbearable. Everything was burnt, and nothing remained. Only Riser stood in the middle of the stage calmly as if he did nothing. Chapter 7. Inevitable Results. Rias wanted to talk, but no words came out of her lips. The members of her peerage also weren't much better. During the rating game, they might have lost, but it didn't mean they had lost their spirit. They could defeat several members of Riser's peerage, so they thought they had a chance, especially with Issei. As Sekurudai, Issei held an unbelievable power inside him. Everyone thought that they had a chance. Yet, everything was meaningless from the beginning. Riser might be a scumbag, a playboy, but his strength, no one could doubt it. By now, it wouldn't be weird to call him the ultimate class devil with his strength. Meanwhile, Riser didn't care about all of that and looked at Issei, who was burnt. It was hard to see his appearance as everything about him was burnt, including the majority of his armor had melted, but maybe because he was the holder of the boosted gear and was in the state of the balance breaker that he could hold on. However, if Riser continued to burn him, then Issei's life was no longer there since he was on his last breath. Still, he took a phoenix tears and dropped it onto Issei. Then, a miracle happened. On his last breath, Issei started to recover, and his burnt skin healed as if he wasn't hurt. Frankly, it wouldn't be weird if he passed out, but maybe because of his obsession, he was still holding on. He looked at the man who had saved him, and he was filled with fear. Yet, how could he not be? The feeling of being burnt was something that was still vivid in his mind. All he could think at that time was that it was better to die rather than be tortured. Riser also kept the fire's temperature not too hot so it wouldn't melt Issei's body. Frankly, killing Issei might be easy and all, but when he thought about the problem in this world, he felt Issei's existence was necessary. His dream was just to have a peaceful debauchery life with his harem, so as for the other troublesome matters, he was going to leave it to Issei, as this guy was, without a doubt, going to attract all the attention of the problem in this world. As for the system, Riser was going to ignore it. It was impossible for him to become a villain since it was troublesome. As for his power, well, he felt that it was enough. He might not be the strongest, but he wasn't weak. Moreover, it was impossible for him to die because of his immortality ability. He smiled inwardly, especially when he thought about Yubaluna and the rest of his peerage members. When this is over. Still, maybe Issei was quite sensitive toward the perverted thought of someone else, as he was also a pervert. So when Riser was thinking something perverted, he could imagine that this bastard was thinking that he was going to do something perverted to his Bucho. When Issei thought about this, his mind was tortured, and he was extremely unwilling when he thought about that possibility. Bucho's lips, Bucho's breasts, and Bucho's virginity. All of them would be stolen by this bastard. No, I won't. I won't let you get Bucho's virginity. As his body was healed by the Phenex tears, Issei felt that he could move his body. He took out the holy water that he had hidden on his gauntlet and was also boosted by his boosted gear before he threw it into Riser. This sneaky little bastard. What an uneducated slave. Is this how you train your slave, Rias Gremory? Everyone was stunned when they saw Issei's dirty move and scolded Rias and the rest without hesitation. In this duel, everyone was clear about who had won, and they also appreciated Riser's gentlemanly act to heal Issei even if this guy had been taunting him. Yet who would have thought that Issei would throw a sneak attack? Being scolded definitely didn't feel good, especially for Rias and the rest, yet they could say nothing since this act was too dirty. They knew that Issei wanted to win, but the match had ended, and the victory of this duel was obvious, so this despicable act was something they frowned upon. However, they could do nothing. Only Issei thought that it was his victory, yet. Sizzle! The sizzling sound sounded, and before the holy water reached Riser, it vaporized. No way. Issei fell into deeper despair as the holy water could do nothing, but he didn't give up. He raised his left fist and was ready to punch Riser once again. After holy water, and now as a rosary? Yet, Issei didn't care about his mocking and just wanted to punch Riser. However, once again, he was burnt. The rosary melted, and his fist scorched black because of the intense temperature. The smell of charred meat spread everywhere, causing everyone to frown, and some almost threw up vomit. Meanwhile, Issei could only hold his fist while crying since it was too painful. It was so painful that he was crying. Riser had never done anything and just stood in a place, staring at Issei like an idiot. He created clothes made of flames that act as armor. Anything that touched him would be burnt or melted because of the heat alone. Naturally, he wouldn't say this and kept this technique a secret. It seems that you don't learn your lesson. Issei, who was crying, was suddenly held in a place by Riser. His stomach was stomped, and he coughed painfully. He couldn't even scream now, and all he could do was look away from him in fear. You have been annoying me from the beginning to the end. Usually, I can kill you, but you are my fiancé's peerage member, so I won't do that. Hearing that, Issei fell in relief and wondered whether Riser was going to give him a Phenex tears. However, Riser created the flame of the blade, raising its temperature and creating a blade of plasma. Your dream is to become a king of harem, right? So what if I burn your tool? Those words caused horror on his body, especially when he saw Riser put his plasma blade near his crotch. With a single movement, then his tool would be gone, disappeared into ash. No, please, don't. He was trembling in fear when he thought he would lose his tool. Huh? Then, you want to die? No, I don't want it to. Please forgive me. I don't want to lose it. You want me to forgive you? Yes. Then, go apologize. I am sorry. Is that how you apologize? I don't see any sincerity from you. Issei was lost for words, but when he thought about the future when he would lose his tool, he couldn't imagine such a thing. Yet, when he thought to apologize to this bastard while bowing his head, he also felt unwilling. He looked around and tried to seek help. Naturally, Rias and the others could see Issei's pleas. Oni-sama. Rias might not be able to defeat Riser, but she had a good brother. Still, the disappointment on her face couldn't be hidden since she knew with this, she couldn't escape from this engagement. Surzek let out a helpless sigh and asked, Riser Kuin, can you let him go? If it's an apology, then my little sister will do something in Security's place. That was the only thing he could do. Rias opened her lips, then closed them again since she knew that was the limit. All of her selfishness had to end here. Since Surzek-sama said so, then I will forgive you. Riser looked at Issei and magnanimously said those words. Hi. Yet, Issei let out a horrible scream when he saw the plasma sword stabbed a few centimeters away between his crotch. Fortunately, the blade didn't burn his tool into the ash. Still, the heat was obvious, and he quickly moved away as he was scared. Though he wondered whether he could be healed once again since his burnt fist was so painful. By the way, the Phenex tears that I have poured on you before aren't free. You have to repay me later. Issei was stunned, then asked curiously. How much? This much. Issei had a cardiac arrest. Chapter 8. Riser Phenex, divorce you. When the battle ended, Riser was surrounded by his relatives. When did you become so powerful? Oni-sama, you are amazing. Have you been hiding all of your power? Whether it was his parents, brothers, little sisters, the members of his peerage, or relatives were happy. He might be a dandy, but his strength was obvious. Security, who had reached a balance breaker, wasn't his opponent, and he also could achieve the strength that all the Phenex devils had never reached. Blue fire. When Riser showed this fire, everyone's eyes were blazing with excitement. Yet, wasn't it normal? The stronger Riser was, the better it was. Moreover, they could also see a way to improve their power from Riser. The Phenex family might be powerful, especially with their immortality trait, but if they could become even stronger, then why not, right? After all, as a devil, what is important is their own strength. The stronger they were, the better. Still, while Riser's family and relatives were happy, Rias and her peerage members were gloomy and depressed. Issei, who they had trusted, was defeated by Riser, yet when they thought about it, wasn't this normal? Riser was a high-class pure-blooded devil who was known as a genius. Issei was just a devil that had only been reincarnated for a while. Even if he had a boosted gear, in the end, he was just a normal human before. However, even if the chance was small, they had hope. Yet in the end, the result was this. Still, the members of Rias's peerage members looked at Issei worriedly since he had passed out. However, they didn't dare to approach the stage as they were wary of Riser. Their master also hadn't said anything and just lowered her head, without saying anything, so as her servants, they could only stay in silence. After all, not everyone could be like Issei, who could ignore the difference of classes among the devils. If they tried to be rude to Riser, even with the protection of Rias, their days wouldn't be good. Moreover, they knew sooner or later, Riser would marry Rias even if Rias hated this marriage. Meanwhile, Rias felt that her future was dark since she knew she couldn't escape from this marriage. From now on, she will become Riser's wife. All of her family, whether it was her parents or brother, could see Rias's expression, but what could they do? In the end, they follow Rias's selfishness and give her a chance to escape from this marriage, but she wastes all of that chance. Security, whom they had believed would change the result, lost miserably and even begged them to ask for mercy from Riser. They looked at Riser's group, which was full of happiness, and didn't say anything. Rias's parents were okay since they also wished for this marriage. Riser also showed a strength that no one expected, and without a doubt, he was good enough to become their son-in-law. After all, if Riser wasn't a good fit, then who would fit? As for his playboy-like life, Riser was strong, and wasn't it normal for the strong to be popular? They also felt like this marriage was good since no matter how they denied it, having a powerful devil as their son-in-law was good. Moreover, Riser's status also perfectly matched Rias's. Surzek, Rias's brother, also thought so. While he could see that his little sister was sad, there was nothing he could do unless he wanted to be treated as a selfish Mao. His actions had caused much dissatisfaction in him, and Riser followed his whim and executed them perfectly, showing his might to everyone. If there was a problem, it was Rias, whose peerage members were too weak. Yes, being weak is an original sin. This is the truth of the world. Also, while Rias was unhappy, Surzek could see that Riser was loved by everyone, showing that Riser's personality was decent. Even if Riser was a playboy, it was better when compared to Issei, right? The two were perverts, but it could be seen which pervert was better, right? Congratulations, Riser Kuin, You have shown us an amazing performance." When Surzek came, Riser's family also gave him a space to talk since even if they had some dissatisfaction towards Surzek, he was still a Mao, and he was also powerful enough to shut down all of them. "No, I was almost defeated before. Sekirudi is worthy of his name. He was really powerful." Riser sighed, showing an exaggeration that he had almost lost before. All of them wanted to laugh, but they held it. Still, they also felt speechless. Almost lost? Wasn't it a one-sided slaughter? "Oni-sama, didn't you defeat that perverted guy one-sidedly?" Riser Phenex giggled at Riser's remark. "Don't say that, Rivel. He might be a pervert, but his power is without a doubt." Riser patted Ravel's hair gently, telling her not to underestimate Issei. He was frank, and he admitted that Issei was powerful, but he didn't think that he would lose, especially when he had carved a terror in Issei's mind. Still, he glanced at Rias from the corner of his eyes and sighed helplessly. "As a villain, how can you care about a little woman? If she is selfish, then you need to teach her who is the master. Be bold and crush her pride. Tell her that she is nothing but a bitch." Option 1. Kill Rias Gremory. You will receive an almighty. Option 2. Sleep with Rias, her female peerage members, Grafia, her mother, and all the females in the Gremory family. You will receive an absolute control. Option 3. Divorced Rias. You will receive a high intelligence. You must choose one, or else you will lose your nipples. Riser felt that he wanted to cry at that moment. While he hated Rias's personality, he loved her body. He felt that it wouldn't hurt to play with her for a while, but what were those choices? Also, losing nipples? "Oni-sama." Ravel looked at Riser with confusion as he stopped to pat her head. Riser took a deep breath and made his choice. "By the way, Surzek-sama, I could ask you a request since it was my victory, right?" Surzek's expression was bitter, but he nodded, showing his kind smile. "Yes. Is there something that you want to ask from me?" "Yes." "What is it?" "You will have my precious little sister as your wife. Is there something that you want to ask from me?" Surzek meant, "Don't be shameless." Riser was going to marry his precious little sister, so shouldn't he be satisfied? However, he ignored Surzek's remark and said, "I hope that you can forgive me for my selfish request and also hope that our relationship won't be unpleasant because of this." Surzek was confused. "What are you going to do?" Riser then looked at Rias then called her name. Rias Gremory. Rias's body flinched when she heard Riser call her name. She knew that she would be his wife, and because of this, she knew her future had ended. When she thought about this, her eyes were moist, but "I, Riser Phenex, divorce you." When those words fell, everyone was dumbfounded. They couldn't believe their ears since what they heard was just too outrageous. Even Rias, who had resigned herself, also looked up in disbelief. No one in this place expected that Riser would divorce Rias. "What do you mean, Riser-kun?" Surzek's expression wasn't good. "I am sorry for my rudeness, but isn't this what you want, Surzek-sama? Isn't this the reason why you set up the raiding game with your little sister's peerage and asked me to fight with that perverted dragon? Am I wrong?" Riser didn't fear Surzek and looked straight at him. Frankly, if he was stronger, he wouldn't care about Surzek's face, but he was weaker, so he needed to take care of the face of this double-faced bastard. Maybe, because Surzek knew what he was doing was wrong and he was in front of everyone, so he had guilty consent and almost looked away when Riser looked into his eyes. When Riser's words fell, no one could find a fault. Everyone in this place wasn't stupid. Whether it was the raiding game or this duel, they knew whether Surzek and Rias's parents were involved. It was impossible for them not to know about this matter. Yet, they acquiesced and let Rias break this engagement from him. They followed Rias's selfishness and let her fight him, trying to break away from this engagement. If Rias won, then Rias and her family wouldn't say anything and be even happy about it. Yet it was different for Riser since he would gain disgrace from it. As for Riser's family, what could they do? Their opponent was Mao, after all. They could do nothing and just thought of it as a lesson for their youngest son for being arrogant all the time. In other words, since Rias and her family were the ones who took the initiative to cause trouble, then they should prepare for the consequences. This was the consequence of her action, being known as a divorced woman. Yet, they had never expected Riser to do this since they knew what kind of beauty Rias was. As a playboy, it was obvious Riser wanted to eat Rias, but because of this, all the eyes present changed when they saw him. They could see the pride of this young man. "If you don't want this marriage, then it's fine. I don't want you either. I will divorce you." Rias was too stunned to say anything since she couldn't believe what she had heard. Yet, wasn't it normal since she was confident in her beauty? It was normal for everyone to fall in love with her beauty instantly, yet Riser told her that he was going to divorce her. Farewell. She saw him saying those words to her for the last time before he turned without even turning in her direction. She felt that her consciousness had become dark and that she had lost something. Rias. Aquino, her queen, quickly caught her, and her expression became complicated. Not only Aquino but all the people present were the same. Even Issei, who had woken up after being healed at that moment, was extremely in the dumbfounded state that he ignored the pain in his body. After all, in his simple mind, what kind of stupid man dared to refuse Rias? Yet, at the same time, he felt relieved Rias's virginity was protected. Still, maybe this was the imagination of the people present, but they felt Riser was freer than anyone right now. It was as if he was the one who was trapped in this marriage. Meanwhile, while Riser felt regret, he also felt relief since he could become a playboy without being troubled by the plot around the protagonist. Still, before he left, his eyes caught a young woman with a short and slender body. Similar to Rias, she was also a beauty, but her beauty was quite different. Their eyes met each other for the first time, and it felt like time stopped for a moment, but he quickly looked away before he left with his peerage members and some of his family. Kaicho, what's wrong? The young woman also woke up from her stupor before she shook her head. No. A certain possibility appeared in her head, but while she felt complex, she didn't really hate the idea yet. It should be impossible, right? Chapter 9. Our son wishes to die. The aftermath of this trouble wasn't something that he had expected. Whether it was the Gremory family or Surzek admitted that they might have pampered Rias too much, so they didn't really blame him, but who knew what they thought inside their heart? Still, at least on the surface, the relationship between the two families wasn't affected. Moreover, did they dare to cut the relationship between the two families? No way. While the Phenex family might not be as powerful as Mao, their number was there, and they also held the Phenex tears. Unless the Gremory family didn't want to buy the Phenex tears, then they could only swallow this bitter pill. Moreover, many also thought that it was also the fault of Rias and her family. His reputation for being dandy was not for nothing. Even his peerage was full of beautiful women, so the thought of him divorcing Rias had never appeared in the mind of others. If there was something that would cause him to make this drastic move, then without a doubt, it was Rias and her family who made a disgusting move, trying to sabotage their engagement, breaking the engagement while making him the bad guy. However, Riser's pride was something that they had never expected. He refused to be part of this charade and decisively divorced Rias without regret and left. By now, the underworld was full of their news. While Surzek and the Gremory family wanted to stop it, it was rather hard since not everything could be controlled by them. Still, not many people agreed with Riser since if they were in his place, they might as well sleep with Rias first before they divorced her. However, this was only a minority. Without a doubt, the majority was in favor of Riser. Moreover, his second brother was the boss of a media company in the underworld, so it was impossible to put all the blame or tarnish the name of the Phenex house. The name of the wealthiest family in the underworld wasn't for nothing. Naturally, this news was only known by the high-class devils. Those who were below had no right to know this matter. Still, without a doubt, Rias Gremory's pride was tarnished because of this. Not only was her first kiss taken, but she was also divorced. However, when she tried to challenge her fiancé's limits from time to time again, she should be ready for the consequences as not everyone was going to accommodate her whimsical. However, it didn't mean that Riser was okay. While he had left with dignity, his problem didn't go away, but he wasn't fully blamed either. Only his father was looking at him with a complicated expression. Are you not going to regret this? The marriage between Riser and Rias was made by the agreement between him and Rias's father, Rias Gremory. The two agreed to marry them since this marriage was good for the devil. As a devil, they wanted their blood to be preserved, especially with many reincarnated devils starting to appear one after another. No one was stupid, and they knew in the future, the number of the reincarnated devil would be much more than those pure-blood devils, especially after the previous wars where the devil with pure blood had almost gone extinct. Moreover, unlike humans, which could quickly breed their races, the devils were different since it was hard for them to produce offspring. The Phenex house aside, since in this generation, they had 4 children that consisted of 3 brothers and 1 sister, the Gremory house was different. The only young generation devil in the Gremory house was Rias Gremory. As for Surzek, as he had become a Mao, he wasn't someone part of the Gremory house again since when one became a Mao, they needed to be parted from their house. Yes, I don't regret this. I can see that they don't like me. Why should I force this relationship? Moreover, this is marriage. If it's just fun, then I don't mind. But a marriage? It means that I will live with her for the rest of my life. I don't want to be trapped with such a troublesome woman for the rest of my life. Nevertheless, when he got home, he couldn't relax as he was called by his parents immediately. Still, hearing his father's question, he didn't really regret it, especially when he got his reward. High intelligence. It was a good ability, without a doubt. Moreover, who wanted to marry a troublesome wife, right? Yes, if they don't want our son, then that's it. There is no need to force it. Also, all the problems started from them. If they don't want to marry, then they shouldn't agree with this agreement in the first place. Fortunately, his mother was on his side. Hearing that, his father also let him go. Anyway, he didn't think that his son would be troubled by a woman, especially with his power. Instead, many women would want to become his wife. The world of the devil is like this. The strongest got everything. Moreover, he also knew that everything started with Rias and her family. But I am surprised that you decided to break your relationship so easily. Are you really sure that you don't regret your decision? Whether his father and mother knew how much his son wanted to marry Rias as soon as possible. Rias was a beautiful woman, and their son was a playboy. So knowing their son's personality, even now, they couldn't erase their surprise at his decision. It was also why his father repeated this question. Riser was speechless, but he knew that his image wasn't good. He let out a helpless sigh and looked into the distance with a lonely expression. Lord Phenex and Lady Phenex. I just realized something when Sir Zexama asked me to fight Security. What did you realize? 2x. They asked him curiously. Do we, devil, like a beautiful woman? Rias is beautiful, especially with that crimson hair. But when I thought about the trouble that came with her, I thought it wasn't worth it. First was the raiding game, then a duel with the Security, then what's next? Moreover, she isn't the only unmarried high-class pure-blooded devil in the underworld. That's true. Lord Phenex nodded. So, do you want me to set up a new marriage for you? Riser's lips twitched, and he asked reluctantly, do I have to marry? Of course. 2x. His parents answered at the same time. Riser didn't want to marry since he wanted to play around first. As a villain, how could you not have a fiancé? You should have a fiancé. Have a wife. Have a mistress. Have a lot of women. Make a harem. The villain is someone that can't be controlled. Live freely and more happily than others. No rules can bind you. The rules are made to be broken by you. Set an engagement with another pure-blood devil. Target, Rias Gremory, Sona Citri, Sikvera Agars, Latia Astaroth, Iriuka Glagiolabilis. If you fail, you will lose one nipple. As for the reward, depending on the number and person, it will be different, but you will like it. If he lost one nipple, then what should he do? Should he rely on an artificial nipple? He wanted to cry, but no tears came out, especially when he thought about the partner that he should take. Also, what do you mean by Rias Gremory? He had just divorced her before. Then, the system wanted him to marry her again. Also, Sona Citri? Wasn't this Rias's best friend? After he divorced Rias, then was he going to have an engagement with Rias's best friend? Was the system wishing to kill him? Even if Mao was a good guy, he might kill him. Also, what do you mean that he would like the reward? However, he didn't want to lose one nipple. He let out a helpless sigh in his heart, then tried to be as calm as possible. Then set me up for a new engagement then. 2x. Lord Phenex and Lady Phenex blinked their eyes. Now, 2x. Yes. They might wish him to marry, but it could be done later, so they didn't expect that he would ask them to set up an engagement once again right after he divorced his previous fiancée a moment ago. However, it was good that he didn't reject the idea of marrying, and they could prepare his new fiancée quickly, so they were excited. So, who do you want to marry? Yes, we will try to set up a meeting with the lady that you like. With Riser's reputation as the Blue Phenex, and their family status, who would reject him? The only one that wanted to reject him was the one with higher status than him, like Rias, since she was the heir of Gremory's house and the little sister of Mao. Still, he didn't answer them immediately. He looked at the list of women that he could marry in his system and thought about who he should marry. This decision was hard, but in the end, he chose Sona Citri. 2x. They wondered whether their son had a death wish. Yes, I know that it is a bit cliché, but there is a reason why I chose this one. Also, she is beautiful, okay? That sharp gaze under her glasses gives me a shudder. Cough. Also, frankly, I am confused about why you all hate Sona so much. However, if I have to say the real reason for choosing Sona, it is because Riser needs backing, someone that can help to protect him. The others are good girls, beautiful, and have better bodies than Sona, but if we talk about status, the only one that can compare to Rias in status is only Sona. As for Latia Astaroth, she might be good, but she is only part of the Astaroth branch family, and it might be better not to get involved with the Astaroth family until Diodora is solved. As for Sikvaria, this girl is part of the Great King faction, which is an unfavorable faction in the underworld. As for Iriuka Glaciolabilis, she is also a branch member of the Glaciolabilis family. The heir of this family will pass away soon, so Riser needs to be careful in case he might be framed. Moreover, her status in her family is rather low now. In conclusion, whether you like Sona or not, you can't deny that if he wants to have a comfortable and stable life, having Sona is necessary since Seraphal's backing is necessary. Moreover, unlike Ajuka Beelzebub, Seraphal is family-oriented, and she can do anything for her family. This marriage isn't simply just marrying a beautiful girl and satisfying his lust, but it is also to save his life. Beauty is fine, but if you don't have enough time to enjoy it, what's the use of it? Chapter 10, The Riser Phenex. Watching the purple sky from his room, Riser fell into a deep thought since he had never thought he would become a Riser Phenex. Unlike before, he could think about his surroundings now, and because of that, he was in a daze since his situation was so bizarre. He had become a devil. He had become a villain. More importantly, he was in a different world. However, he could do nothing and decided to accept his situation. In his previous life, he should have died, but then he became Riser Phenex, who was about to have an engagement with Rias. Still, the problem is with the system now. While the system gave him many good things, the consequences of not following the system were outrageous. The first was losing his dick, then his demonic power, then his nipples. So what next? His hair? He rubbed his healthy, soft, and beautiful blonde hair and felt fortunate that it existed. Still, even now, he felt that everything was surreal. He was in his castle now, trying to calm down his nerve, but even so, it was rather hard, especially with how huge this place was. Unlike the Earth, the underworld was a little different. While the sizes of the Earth and the underworld were quite similar to each other, the underworld didn't have a sea, only a lake, and a river, so the mass of land was much bigger. Also, the size of the domain of the Phenex house was outrageous. At least, it is about Borneo's land, right? It was much bigger than the domain of Gremory, which was about Honshu Island. Maybe, because of this, he owned his own castle, so he felt like dreaming even if he had never dreamed of owning a castle. However, unlike the Earth, which was full of people, there weren't many devils, so the land was mostly empty. Only a few places were full of people. Moreover, the underworld wasn't lived by the devil alone since the fallen angel also existed in the underworld. So, half of the underworld was controlled by the fallen angel. Moreover, the relationship between the devil and a fallen angel wasn't good. There was also an angel. The relationship between the three was like a mortal enemy, and the moment they met, they would kill each other. There were even other myths from various countries, such as Norse mythology, Hindu mythology, Greek mythology, Chinese mythology, and many others existed. Hence, an existence like Zeus, Odin, Shiva, and others also existed. Moreover, he remembered that there were still many villain organizations that wished for world destruction. He rubbed his temple and thought that this world was dangerous. It seemed his dream to live a peaceful life with his harem members was still hard. The fortunate thing was that his power was good enough. Fire Mastery, his first reward, only increased his mastery over his fire manipulation ability, but it was good enough to put him in the top 100 strongest in this world. Still, his ability to run away was much better than anyone's since, with this ability, he could create a mirage, turn it into an invisible one, and have immortality. Even if someone stronger wanted to kill him, it wouldn't be so easy. As for his second reward, it was useless except for the battle on the bed. As for his third reward, it was also good since everything was so clear in his head now, and he became smarter. Besides fire manipulation, as someone from a Phenex family, he could manipulate the wind and become immortal. With his intelligence now, he could think of various ways to develop his ability. Nevertheless, his intelligence also helped him to remember various vivid memories of this world and his previous world. It was also the reason why he chose Sona Citri as his choice of engagement. He wasn't sure about those little side characters, but while Rias was a childish woman who thought that her wish could be granted as long as she fought for it, Sona was smart, or rather, one needed to be smarter than her was her criteria for a husband to be. Because of his high intelligence, he remembered that Sona Citri only wanted to marry someone that was smarter than her. If someone went against her in the chess game, then she would accept the marriage. While this request was quite strange, she was really smart, and it was also why she could protect herself from being forced to have an engagement like Rias. In other words, unlike Rias, Sona had a real ability. Even without the help of Securudii, Sona could choose her own fate. Nevertheless, the reason why he chose her was because her sister was also one of the mouse. While he didn't think that Surzek would trouble him, he felt that it was safer if he had someone that could protect him. Sona's sister might not be as powerful as Surzek, but Surzek and Sona's sister were good friends, and the possibility of the two fighting each other because of this matter would be zero. Lastly, with his high intelligence, he felt that it should be easy for him to beat Sona on the chess, conquering her mind, then using his S*X mastery to conquer her body. In other words, Sona was a perfect target for him. Still, there was no time limit for this quest, and even if he failed on this proposal, it didn't really matter since he was just trying, and it wasn't like he wanted to marry Sona since he needed to know her personality first. The other candidates listed by the system also weren't bad, so he needed to study this matter carefully. Still, in the end, in this world, the most important thing is power. When one has power, one can do anything. They also would be favored and sought after by everyone. Wasn't this the case with Issei Hayudo? If Issei wasn't Securudii, then what would he be? Undoubtedly, Issei would only spend his time at the house watching porn and masturbating. However, he was Securudii, and his future would be vibrant with a lot of harems. Riser didn't feel jealous or envious since his life wasn't that bad either, but he didn't doubt that power was necessary. At least, his power should be enough to reach the top 10 in the world. Riser-sama, are you okay? He was startled before he relaxed as two of the softest things clung to the back of his head. Yubaluna. It was his queen, along with all the members of his harem. You should rest now, Riser-sama. Yeah, we'll help you to make you comfortable, yeah? He wasn't sure how to react at this moment, or rather he didn't react at all since many hands started to creep onto his body. Their tender, warm, and small hands rubbed into his well-developed body as they showed a lewd smile. He might have had an experience, but he didn't have an experience with so many women at the same time. Was this a harem? How wonderful. I mean, how dangerous. Go for it. As a villain, you should steal the women of others. Mark all of the female members of your peerage as yours. Sleep with all of them. Since from now on, all of them are going to be yours. Depending on the completion, your demonic power will increase. Lastly, if you succeed, you will get a surprise reward. If you fail, you will lose your balls. Rewards aside, the consequences were as vicious as ever. Also, what did the system mean? Was this thought that if he didn't dare to move on them, then he might as well lose his balls? He was furious at the moment, so he took the lips of the woman who was closest to him. A female swordsman with short hair and a headband that went across her hair and forehead, whose name was Carlamine. Everyone who watched this fell in silence after they saw Carlamine's reaction. It was so exaggerated. Carlamine's body quivered several times, and she rolled her eyes, showing the white part of her eyes. She had come several times from the kiss alone. Moreover, her body emitted a lewd pheromone, and her inside was so wet that it drenched onto the floor. Everyone also reacted similarly, looking at Carlamine with envy before Riser stopped the kiss while holding Carlamina on his arm. Don't ever think about leaving this room today. Gulp. All of them gulped and widened their eyes since his phoenix was about to soar. Ravel had always thought that her older brother had changed, but that change was a good thing, and she liked to see the strong him, especially when he divorced Rias in front of everyone. She wanted to jump out and raise her fist at that time. Moreover, all of his techniques during his fight with the Securudii were so novel, so when he finished his conversation with their parents, she wanted to talk with him. He also had promised her that he would teach her. However, when he finished the talk, he left and didn't even call her. Humph. If he doesn't teach me, then I will ignore him. She puffed her cheeks and walked into his room, but the closer she got to her room, the more she noticed a strange noise. She felt weird since she had never heard this noise, so she felt curious. She stopped in front of his room, and somehow, her heart was beating so fast. She took a deep breath and lightly pushed the door without making a single noise before she peeked into the gap. Inside, she saw something that she had never imagined. All of the female members of his peerage showed an expression that she had never thought of. They were like drunk, and they were so lewd, yet among all of them, her older brother was there. Her breathing became heavy, and she couldn't take her eyes away. She can see that all of them were crazy about her older brother, and while she felt annoyed and even angry, she couldn't look away. As she watched this, her breathing became harder, and her hand subconsciously moved into the deepest part of her skirt.